in a quiet village nestled between emerald hills, lived a woman named Sita, whose words were as restless as the wind. Her days were spent weaving stories about neighbors and family alike, spinning harmless details into dramatic narratives. While she was always welcome at gatherings, her presence brought a quiet unease like a shadow lingering at the edge of light. One evening, during a family celebration, Sita leaned over to her niece, Maya, and whispered, "Did you notice how your cousin wore the same dress as last year? Times must be tough for them." Maya laughed nervously, not realizing how deeply this comment would cut when it was passed along and distorted. The Buddha once said, "The tongue is like a sharp knife. It kills without drawing blood." Sita's words, seemingly trivial, began to ripple outward, fracturing the bonds within her family. Her cousin, hurt by the gossip, stopped attending gatherings. Her brother, feeling exposed, became distant and guarded. The family, once close-knit, began to fragment, each member retreating into their own corner. Buddhist philosophy reminds us that words carry energy, shaping the emotions and perceptions of those around us. Gossip, though often cloaked in humor or concern, is a form of verbal karma that creates pain and distrust. The Buddha taught, what you think, you become; what you feel, you attract; what you imagine, you create. By speaking ill of others, we not only harm them, but also pollute our own minds with negativity. Sita, though unaware, was creating suffering for herself. As the years passed, her once large circle of friends grew smaller. Her relatives, wary of her sharp tongue, distanced themselves. Sita found herself increasingly isolated, her words coming back to her like echoes in an empty room. One day, Sita overheard a conversation at the temple about the concept of samaveka right speech. The monk explained that mindful speech involves refraining from falsehoods, harsh words, and idle chatter. Intrigued and humbled, Sita began to reflect on the damage her words had caused. She approached Maya, her niece, and said, "I've wronged you and others with my thoughtless words. I want to change." It was not easy to rebuild trust, but Sita's genuine effort to speak with kindness and truth began to mend broken relationships. The story of Sita teaches us the profound impact of speech. Relationships, even those tied by blood, are fragile threads that must be handled with care. Aligning with the Buddhist principle of right speech, we should seek to communicate with compassion, ensuring our words heal rather than harm. For in the end, the bonds we preserve with kindness are the ones that sustain us through life's impermanence. Far away in a bustling city, a young man named Arun lived with his elder brother, Dev. Dev had raised Arun after their parents passed away, and Arun loved and respected him deeply. Yet, their relationship was fraught with unspoken tension. Dev, though well-meaning, was a man of rigid expectations, often imposing his vision of life onto Arun. "You should take the accounting job," Dev insisted one evening as Arun hesitated over a job offer. "It's stable. You don't need to waste your time chasing dreams." Arun felt the weight of his brother's words. While he appreciated Dev's concern, he longed to pursue his passion for art. But each time he voiced his desires, Dev dismissed them, saying, "You owe it to the family to be practical." The Buddha taught, attachment leads to suffering. Dev's need to control Arun's choices stemmed from his attachment to an idea of security and success. He failed to see that his brother's path was his own to walk. Control, even when disguised as love, stifles growth and breeds resentment. Arun began to feel trapped, like a bird in a gilded cage. The love he had for his brother turned into silent frustration. His dreams felt like forbidden fruits, just out of reach. One day, he confided in a friend who shared a teaching from the Dhammapada. "You cannot travel the path until you have become the path itself." Inspired, Arun decided to speak his truth. "Dev," he said one evening, "I love you for all you've done for me, but I need to live my life on my terms. I want to pursue art, even if it means taking risks." Dev was taken aback. At first, he resisted, but Arun's calm determination softened his stance. Dev realized that his attempts to control Arun were rooted in his own fears. Slowly, he began to let go, trusting Arun to find his own way. Boundaries are acts of compassion not only for ourselves but also for others. They allow relationships to thrive without the burden of undue expectations. The Buddha's teachings remind us that true love liberates rather than confines. By stepping back, we allow others the freedom to grow, and in doing so, we free ourselves from the illusion of control. The story of Arun and Dev highlights the importance of respecting individuality, even within family bonds. Love should be a source of strength, not a chain that binds. Through mindful detachment and clear boundaries, we honor both our own journey and that of others. In this way, we cultivate relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and freedom, aligning with the natural flow of life's impermanence. In a small coastal town, there lived a woman named Priya and her elder brother, Shyam. Shyam often reminded Priya of the sacrifices he had made for her during their childhood. He would say, "I worked tirelessly to put food on the table and pay for your education. You owe me." Priya, deeply grateful, did her best to support him. She lent him money, helped with his business ventures, and even took care of his children when his wife fell ill. Yet Shyam's demands never ceased. When Priya hesitated to fulfill one of his requests, he accused her of ingratitude, saying, "How can you forget all I've done for you?" Buddhism teaches the importance of gratitude, but it also warns against the dangers of clinging. The Buddha said, attachment brings suffering, liberation brings peace. Shyam's sense of entitlement arose from his inability to let go of past sacrifices, binding both him and Priya in a cycle of guilt and obligation. Priya began to feel suffocated, her own needs and dreams overshadowed by her brother's relentless demands. Despite her best efforts, nothing seemed to satisfy him. It was as if the gratitude she offered was never enough to fill the void in his heart. One evening, Priya attended a meditation session at a nearby monastery. The monk spoke about the concept of dana, giving without attachment. He explained, true generosity expects nothing in return. When we cling to our giving, we poison it with ego and turn it into a transaction. Priya realized that while she had been generous, she had also allowed Shyam's entitlement to take root by not setting boundaries. She decided to have an honest conversation with her brother. "Shyam," she said gently, "I am grateful for everything you've done for me, but gratitude doesn't mean I must sacrifice myself endlessly. Your past sacrifices were noble, but we must live in the present, not the past." Shyam was defensive at first, but over time he began to reflect on her words. He recognized how his own clinging to the past had clouded his judgment and strained their bond. The story of Priya and Shyam teaches us the importance of balancing gratitude with self-respect. True giving, as the Buddha emphasized, is free from expectation. When we encounter entitled individuals, even within our families, it is an act of compassion to set boundaries. By doing so, we protect both our well-being and the integrity of the relationship. In the bustling city of Mumbai, Ravi, a young entrepreneur, found success early in life. He often shared his milestones with his extended family, believing that his happiness would bring them joy. Among them was his cousin, Kiran, who always appeared supportive but carried a silent bitterness. Kiran's resentment grew as Ravi's achievements piled up. During family gatherings, Kiran would make subtle jabs. "It must be nice to have all the luck in the world," or "some people just have it easy." Ravi, though initially dismissive, began to notice how Kiran's words were laced with envy. Buddhist philosophy describes jealousy as a form of suffering rooted in ignorance. The Buddha said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." Jealousy blinds us to our own blessings and disconnects us from the interdependence of all beings. Kiran's envy not only poisoned his view of Ravi, but also deepened his own unhappiness. Ravi, confused and hurt, sought counsel from a wise teacher in his neighborhood. The teacher shared a teaching on mudita's sympathetic joy. "Celebrate the success of others," the teacher said, "for their joy adds to the collective well-being of all." Inspired by this wisdom, Ravi approached Kiran not with anger, but with understanding. "Kiran," he said during a quiet moment, "I've noticed that my success seems to bother you. I value our bond and don't want jealousy to come between us." Kiran was startled by Ravi's directness, but also moved by his kindness. After a long silence, Kiran confessed, "It's hard to see you achieve so much while I feel stuck." It's not about you, it's about my own frustrations. Ravi offered words of encouragement, saying, your journey is your own, and it's just as valuable as mine. Let's support each other instead of competing. Slowly, their relationship began to heal, grounded in honesty and mutual respect. The tale of Ravi and Kiran highlights the transformative power of compassion and overcoming jealousy. The Buddha taught that when we rejoice in the success of others, we free ourselves from the shackles of comparison. While jealousy can harm relationships, it also provides an opportunity to practice mudita and deepen our connection with others. By addressing jealousy with kindness, we not only preserve relationships but also foster a sense of shared humanity. In a modest countryside home, Tara lived with her in-laws after marrying her husband, Raj. Raj's mother, Meera, was a pillar of the family, known for her warm hospitality and sharp wit. Yet, beneath her outward charm lay a talent for manipulation. Meera had a way of cloaking her demands in affection. Tara, you know I only want the best for you, she would say, her voice laced with concern. That's why I think you shouldn't take on that new project. Focus on the family instead, it's what truly matters. Tara often felt torn. She loved Meera and wanted to honor her as a dutiful daughter-in-law. Yet she couldn't ignore the sinking feeling of her independence slipping away, one decision at a time. Manipulators thrive on guilt, using it as a subtle tool to control others. Buddhism warns against such dynamics as they rob individuals of their autonomy and peace. The Buddha said, do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment. Meera's manipulation anchored Tara in a cycle of doubt and guilt, preventing her from fully embracing her own path. One day, Tara confided in her friend Priya, a woman with a deep understanding of Buddhist teachings. Priya shared the concept of upaya, or skillful means. It's possible to honor your family without losing yourself, she explained. Compassion for others must include compassion for yourself. Encouraged, Tara decided to approach Meera with honesty and calmness. Ma, she began, I deeply respect you and everything you've done for this family, but I also need to honor my own responsibilities to myself. I hope you'll support me in finding balance. Meera was initially defensive, but Tara's sincerity softened her. Over time, she began to understand that Tara's boundaries were not a rejection of the family, but a way to nurture her own well-being. The story of Tara and Meera reminds us of the importance of self-awareness in navigating manipulative relationships. The Buddha taught that wisdom and compassion must go hand in hand. By setting healthy boundaries, we protect our inner peace and cultivate relationships rooted in mutual respect. Manipulators often act out of fear or insecurity. Responding with empathy rather than hostility allows both sides to grow. In the bustling streets of Delhi, Rohit was known as the life of every party. Charismatic and daring, he lived without fear of consequences. His younger sister, Anika, had always admired his boldness. But over time, admiration turned to concern as Rohit's reckless behavior spiraled out of control. From gambling debts to impulsive investments, Rohit's choices began to take a toll, not only on his life but also on those around him. Anika often found herself bailing him out, using her savings to cover his mistakes. Each time, Rohit promised to change, but the pattern repeated. The Buddha taught, what you sow, so shall you reap. Recklessness stems from ignorance and inability to see the interconnectedness of actions and their consequences. Rohit's disregard for the impact of his choices created suffering not just for himself but for his entire family. One evening, Anika sought advice from a Buddhist teacher. The teacher explained the principle of karuna, or compassion, and its counterpart, prajna, or wisdom. Compassion is not about enabling, he said. True compassion allows others to face their karma and learn from it. Determined to help her brother in a meaningful way, Anika sat down with Rohit. Bahai, she said, I love you, but I can no longer fix your mistakes. You need to take responsibility for your actions. Rohit was taken aback, anger flashing across his face. But as days turned into weeks, he began to realize the depth of Anika's love. Her refusal to enable him was not a rejection but a call to accountability. Slowly, he started making changes, though the journey was far from easy. The story of Rohit and Anika teaches us that compassion must be paired with wisdom. Reckless individuals often drag others into their chaos, but enabling them only delays their growth. The Buddhist teachings remind us to act with clarity and kindness, allowing others to learn from their mistakes while protecting our own well-being. Through these 6 stories, we see the profound wisdom of Buddhist philosophy in navigating complex relationships. Gossip mongers, controllers, entitled individuals, the jealous, manipulators, and the reckless all bring challenges that test our patience, compassion, and boundaries. Yet each challenge is an opportunity for growth both for ourselves and for those we love. The Buddhist teachings of impermanence, karma, and compassion remind us that relationships are fluid, not fixed. By practicing mindfulness, setting boundaries, and approaching every interaction with empathy, we can preserve our inner peace while fostering deeper connections. Life, like a river, flows in one direction. Choose your companions wisely, for they shape the waters you navigate. And remember, as the Buddha said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without.